Guys, Dan here.
And Frank for the Mazer Squad, and we have Frankie P and Matt Blair with us today
Howdy,
from
y'all.
Kaijus and
Hey everybody, what's
Cowboys.
going on?
Yeah.
We are ready.
Yeah. Why don't you guys introduce us to Kaijus and Cowboys, just for anybody who's
All
watching that's
right.
not familiar with these series.
Woo! All right. Well, Kaijus and Cowboys. Oh man, Kaijus and Cowboys is a homage to the Bronze Age style of comic book storytelling, which we call escapism, which is escapism comic book reading. Whereas over the top action, fun dialogue, we're trying to make a world where the impossible is exciting and fun. Some people have actually said that it feels almost like they're reading an actual like animated TV show from the 80s and stuff, which is great. I mean, it's so flattering to feel like, because I remember that when I was watching them as a kid back in the 80s, and how, like, something like Bionic 6 or any of those other shows like that, where you just go right into the action. Thundercats, you go right into
Yeah,
it, and then the
I
story
mean,
starts building up and building up, and you start getting these little nuggets here and there of various aspects of it, which leads to a greater, bigger story. And so that's sort of like what Kaiju and Cowboys is. It's a story where on an alien world, we have our robots, and the robots are building settlements. And then we have a particular robot, Hunterbot Bewin, who is he's the main one protagonist, but there are other players as well in this story, in which he is out there to sort of, protect against the various kaijus and daikaijus. So you have the daikaijus, which are more giant size, then you have the kaijus, which are range in different various sizes, who are always constantly attacking these settlements. And so he's sort of protecting them. Pretty straightforward, but then Matthew Blair, who is the amazing writer and co-creator as well, he's going to add in some extra little depth in there, for the plot to enhance it more. So there's definitely a deeper story
Oh,
than
yeah.
just the outer
Incidentally,
appearance of
hey
action
everyone.
and stuff like that.
Incidentally,
yeah, and we definitely have
BWIN
some
stands
questions
for
and stuff
Bot
about the
with No
deeper
Name,
story.
which
How's it
you
going,
know,
Matt?
Frankie and I have been working together for
Yes.
like what is it, 6, 7 years? Yeah,
Ooh,
yeah.
I'm saying seven now. I think we're
We've
moving on to
known each
seven
other
years
for a while,
in
and
our relationship.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
wow.
and like we both realized that we love
Hmm.
westerns and we love kaiju media. Granted, Frankie loves it a hell of a lot more than I do. But we decided, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we decided,
Same
like,
thing. Sure.
hey, we both like this thing. Why don't we come up with a story? And like, it started as a project
Yeah.
in 2020 when certain things were happening that apparently the internet doesn't like to talk about. Uh, but yeah, it was I was sitting in my room doing nothing in particular, and I was like, "Hey, Frankie likes kaiju stories. We should make a kaiju story. Hey, Frankie, what about this idea? What if we do this?" And Frankie was like, "Absolutely, that sounds like an awesome idea." And the rest, as they say,
Yeah.
is history.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I was going to ask how you guys met like that, but
Well, I
that's
think
really
that
cool.
when
That's how
Matthew
it all
first said,
formed.
when we was thinking about the cowboy, immediately in my head I saw the image of course, the trope of Clint Eastwood, Jet Jaguar, and Jack Kirby's Machine Man. And I saw these
Yeah.
images of them, and I said, let me see if I can combine them together and see what can come out of it. And that's what Hunter Bot Bewin is, where and then I said, well, I have dreadlocks, so he has to have dreadlocks.
No, it's a
So
it's
to
a,
sort
it's
of
a
tie it
great
in there and
design.
stuff. And it was funny because it's like I just sort of, that design that you see is the first design. I did do another design, which you will see pop up, but I did another design, and I talked to Matt about it. Matt was like, no, 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 stick with this design. And I said, okay, cool, we'll stick with that
So,
one. But it's like taking the tropes of the Western, but also amplifying it with the sci-fi kind of aspect of it. And I mean, also, in a certain degree, trying to create that, have a sense of that magic that, like the Shogun Warriors, like Herb Trimpe. Herb Trimpe is another hero of mine. I got
yes.
to meet him before he passed away a couple of times. trying to have that fun. Like, can comic books be fun? You know, that's the key thing. Like, and when I'm drawing and thinking about it, I'm like, I remember as a kid escaping in these worlds. A lot of books today, I think that we've gone through this sort of range of so much realistic stuff where you there's no escapism. There's a sense where you can look outside your door and you can see, you know, these horrible things that are happening in our world. But then also comic books are reflecting that. And I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that I remember growing up reading comics. There was so many other options. So that
sometimes you want to feel good when you
want to be
reading,
it's like
you know?
I like the Punisher and I enjoyed the Punisher comic books, but it was kind of cool to be able to get something like the Shogun Warriors as well. It would be in the same kind of you know, it'd be like, oh wow, there's Punisher, there's the Shogun Warriors, and then over on the side there's Akira. You know, so you get all these different ranges, and it's like, can we bring that back? I'm not saying we get rid of what's going on, but can we also bring these other kind of different styles and kind of storytellings to the mixture?
Yeah.
So we have something so that people can have an option. So if, you know.
Yeah, and it's a very fast-paced story too. The comics is in our recent review, like it was a rather quick review, and we were like, there's just so much more to it. Like, we told you the story, but like, there's so much going on these pages that, like,
visually,
you gotta visually. It's a very visual comic, I'm gonna
let folks know. I want folks to understand that Matthew is you know, he's doing a story. So I tend to get this stuff. Yeah. I'm surprised by a lot of this stuff. I see, like, when he sends it to me, and I'm like, oh my god, this is really. Even though the thing about it is that I know where because Matthew sent me the overlay. I know where he's going, but also as somebody who's worked in the business, I also know that sometimes with stories, they have to go through their journey. So even though you may have a blueprint for saying, okay, well, it's going to be like this, and this, you don't know how you may end up. And I love that aspect of it. I love the fact that, I read this and it says this is supposed to be this way, but then as you go through the journey, because new ideas come up, new feelings, you may be looking at the story, you may see something that I draw or whatever, and you go, whoa, I never thought of that before, so maybe I can add this kind of element to it. So I'm always surprised and very happy to see.
Well, and don't worry, Frankie, the new script is coming soon. So,
no, I mean,
woo! I'm excited, and we're gonna tell people that's issue 8. So what?
Oh wow! I know. Last I heard you were on 6, but now you're on 8. Wow! So you're almost at the end too. So you just got a couple. You got 4 more to go after this.
As we said before, we had a short little conversation. How we talked about the fact of production, and I think that a lot of books out there. I think a lot of people out there have gone through this kind of feeling with crowdfunding. And there's great hits, but there's unfortunately misses too. And I've purchased. I've gone through the same thing where I've waited for months, even years, for some books and stuff like that. And I think one of the things about it is that's very important to us is that, you know, we're coming out from the left side of the field, so we know that we're climbing this mountain. You know, just to be able to get, you know, people to recognize us, and the equity that we have is really our reputation. That is our equity right now, is the fact that what we say we do, we stand by it, and people need to see that.
And you know, I think people are recognizing it because you guys are just about at 50% now. I was just
I've been trying not to look at it. I know it.
You're at 906. You're so close to that $1,000 mark. So I'm really hoping that you guys get that 50% after the first 48 hours. That would be amazing. It feels
good to see so many people talking about it. I mean, I've been getting DMs, and I've been writing to people, thanking people, because I don't take none of that lightly. I think the thing about it is that I've always been very humble about my approach to things, because I just go, well, you know, I'm one artist. There's thousands of artists out there. When I worked in the industry, when I got work and stuff, I was always grateful for that, because I sit there and I'm going, there's nothing really, you know, I like my work, and I'm glad that people like my work, but I don't think that I'm the best artist out there. But I know that I'm dependable. I know that I can communicate well with the client, and so I can, you know, I know that these are the qualities.
And speaking as someone who has worked with a bunch of other artists,
And so,
anyone who's listening that is considering a career in art, that is a skill. Being dependable and being reliable and communicating well is such a huge and important skill. It's like you can be the greatest artist on the face of the planet, but if you aren't good with your deadlines, or if you aren't good with like getting back to the clients or being, talking about notes, no one will hire you. And and
that's right.
No, absolutely right.
It's customer service, and it's also selling. It's selling yourself and selling your ideas.
And you gotta respect you have to respect that.
And so
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I love your art style. I mean, to me, art's very subjective. I love all different ranges. Everybody's got a different style. I mean, your style is unique. Like you mentioned Godzilla before, the War for Humanity art style.
Oh, that one, I can't wait to get that. Yeah, I know. And I'm happy to see that kind of style. Yeah,
I love it, and I love that art style. And I did see fans online that were bashing it. They're like, "Oh, that art style is terrible." I'm like, "Well, what are you talking about?"
If we're gonna say something,
this looks amazing.
I was talking to somebody earlier today, and they were talking about the recent Godzilla stuff that came out. I guess that Legendary's doing. Yeah, the legendary stuff. And then I know Drew Edwards. Yeah. My feeling on it, I said, maybe I'll play devil's advocate on this. I said, I think that it's easy to sit there and say, okay, the artist. You'd be like, okay, the artist and whatever. But I said, well, here's the other side of it. My feeling when I look at that is I get a feeling that those guys are being hit with a very fast deadline. I said that I feel like those guys are being treated like the Legendary books, in my humble opinion, are being treated like if I'm doing a work for an advertising agency. So advertising agency is a quick turnaround. They're not asking me to do work that's going to appear inside of a book. They're just like, well, Frank, we need this. They'll call me at like 12 in the afternoon. We need it by 7 that night. That's a fast turnaround. Yeah. So that means that it's got to look good for the client, of course, but it's not book quality kind of stuff. So imagine if you're approaching an artist like that and you say, we got this deadline, but then your deadline is like that super fast, then the artist is going to have to take some shortcuts. I wish it wasn't like that. I feel sad for any artist that has to trace a figure or trace an image or rip what we used to call an advertise. We call it rips because we're working for a lot of these big brands. And they're just like, hey, we want to make sure our product looks like the product. So of course, we're going to use a light table. Yeah. You're going to you're going to rip the image, but that shouldn't be for comic books and things like that. Comic books, the time should be put in there for the artist to be able to do an adequate amount of time, so that the writer can have enough adequate time if they want to make edits or anything like that. For the letterer, there should always be a good, solid production time, so that the whole team, if it is a team, can breathe easy. And so that they can have the time to be able to do a nice polished work, because you want to be able to put your best foot out. And I feel bad. So that was when I responded to the person, I said, well, I just want to just share another different side of it. I said, I also want to say that I do agree with you. It really hurts when you spend this money for this product and you look at it and you go, oh.
Especially the covers.
I know.
I felt like, the covers didn't do those books justice, because like I said, I've read The Hunted, which was the Kong New Empire prequel, and the art inside wasn't bad, but the covers didn't do it justice, because it was a rehashed cover of the omnibus cover, but they just flipped it upside down and changed the colors, and I was like, it's the same exact cover twice, except I don't know. I don't even know what the words are for it. But
what's funny is I was working with Dope Pope. Dope Pope ended up doing a variant. He did because Dope Pope did this amazing figure, by the way, also as well.
Yes, and he did for the third issue. He did this one,
and so
we wanted to ask you, how did that relationship? How did you get in that relationship?
Well,
with
Dope
him?
Pope he came to me and he said, Frank, he said, I wanna. He said if you want me to do some variant work, and he said that last year, and I said, I wasn't sure. I didn't know that Dope Pope would be, his style would be something that would work that well and stuff or whatever. I just didn't know. So I said, okay. And I'll be honest with you. Originally, I had approached Thomas Perkins But Thomas Perkins
All right.
was very busy and stuff like that, and I get it. I said, no problem. So then I came back and I said, Dope Up. I said, can you send me some samples so I can just take a look at what you got and then whatever. So then we can work from there. And he said, no problem, Frank. Because honestly, once I get into that frame of mind, I'm like, I guess I'd be the closest thing to an art director. I would be a creative director, art director, where that I put that visor on and I get serious. Although you can talk to me, but I'm gonna look at your artwork and I'm gonna look at it with a keen eye. And so he sent me a bunch of samples, and it blew me away. He sent a bunch of different ones, but he sent one of that character from Star Wars. He looks like Clint Eastwood. He was in The Mandalorian. Yes,
Cad Bane.
He did a fantastic image of it, and I said I want that.
I've never seen that.
I said, dude, because he said, he sent me a bunch of stuff, and he sent me that, I was like, dude, I said, okay, so what I did is I did a mock-up. I took that image, I did a mock-up, and I said, okay, dude, you're giving me an idea, because I hadn't thought about it. I said, what if we did almost like these kind of wanted posters of the characters? Because then I said, then I could use it. I could use that for a variant cover and also as a trading card. Would you be okay with that? I always check with people just to make sure. And he said, sure. So I worked with him, and then we started working back and forth. I said, he sent me some stuff. I did a rough idea of what I was looking for. He started working. He sent it back, and I said, well, maybe we can have the hair plan. He was really, one of the things about me is that I don't come in with a sort of dictator kind of mentality. I'm an artist. I understand.
Yeah.
So I work with people. I said, well, maybe we could do this. And then I take his image and then I work in Photoshop and do, work on it so he can see where I'm going. So I don't just leave it open where whatever. And he was like, wow, Frank, I never thought of that. And I said, well, there you go, man. And I'm very, very supportive and whatever and that kind of stuff. And he came back and it just blew me away. Well, blew us both away because once I showed Matt was like, "Oh man," he was like, "Wow."
Insane.
So I said, "Okay." I said, "All right, man."
This is all very new to me.
So I'm loving that.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of the Titanic.
No, it's always. This is all very new to me.
Again,
this
Matt,
is.
I
just saw the cover and I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." It kind of looks like. There was a publisher called Dell Comics that did a lot of they did a lot of IP comics in like the 50s and 60s, and they had these gorgeous painted covers. And like I saw that, and I was like, "This is what this reminds me of. This is amazing." So,
he did an amazing job. But I think, I'm sorry.
No, it's a gorgeous cover, and I feel like I've never really seen that kind of work from him because a lot of the times, a lot of the work that I've seen lately from him, he's just making all these incredible monster sculptures and designs. He did the Gorgo figure for Titan Creations. He's doing the Yangere. He put out that great Shimo piece that he did a couple weeks ago.
I hope that it opens doors.
He does great monster designs.
I hope it opens doors for people to look at it. They look at him in a different way where they go, "Hey, dude, can you could do covers and stuff." I thought it's a great kind of thing.
There's a talent that I had. Well, I mean, he's clearly got talent, but I had no clue that he could do something like that.
Well, another thing too is that me and Matt talked and we said, "Look, I'm not a huge fan of multiple variant."
Yeah,
covers.
me neither. They killed comics in the '90s.
I think that I'm the artist. Yeah, exactly. It didn't help the 90s, and I think that one of the things, if you're going to do a variant cover, then I think that one cover is really good. I think that you should do a cover. You should have something where you have the main artist who does a cover, and then you have a variant cover, and that's it. And then it works. If you're going to push it, maybe two, but that's pushing it for me. But it makes it just very special. So I'm very happy. I'm glad to see the responses to it. And hopefully it's something that gets him encouraged to do more. Which wink, wink,
different.
There's going to be more.
Good.
One of the things I always worry about with variant covers, some people can handle them really well, but in the past we've seen with other Kickstarters, when you bring on too many at the same time, now you have multiple SKUs. Who's getting what? It becomes a shipping.
And it's just like, think about it. You're just getting you're getting the same book with different covers. I look at. I'm a collector as well. I think that's another part of me where I collect artwork.
Yeah.
I collect figures as well. I'm a collector. So the thing about it is, there's that level of rarity about saying, yeah, I got this. I'm the only one that has that. Any collector out there, we give props. We give props. Like, if you have something that I don't have, I go, all right, I respect you, player. I get it. I get excited. There's that thing right there. Now, that gets diminished when everybody starts having a piece of that. You know what I mean? Where it's like, now this person has X amount. Now this person... It starts losing. You start devaluing it. That, again, like Matthew said, the 90s. One of the major problems of the 90s was they started putting out multiple variant covers. And then it started losing. The value started going down, down, and down. And it hurt comic books. And it still hurt us. Because now you start to see people doing the same thing. And so we have to play a different kind of game. We got to stay true to what we have as our product and say, look, we are here to put out a comic book. And yes, a variant cover is special. And let's make it special. I like the fact that the cover can also translate into...
And you're also right about it being a shipping nightmare as well. Because, Frankie does the art and the production side. I handle the logistics side of it. And it's like... like 5 or 6 variant covers and figuring out who gets what. It's like, a big reason why the rewards are the way they are is admittedly because it makes it easier to ship as well. Because we had one campaign where we did like binders, and it's like that was awful because it was like you had to wrap them in bubble wrap. You had to find the right size box. You had to make sure there were enough of those boxes in stock, and you had to pay for shipping for the boxes as well. So it's like, no, we're not doing that anymore. So
and I think people need to understand that Matthew is really and I've mentioned online. I think it's important that people understand he is doing a tremendous amount of work. I don't think a lot of people starting this understand that distribution, when you get to the point of distribution and those other fun stuff, it's a huge job.
No, we've noticed Matt's updates as soon as the campaign's ending. It's like when his hard work starts. That's like when he's like, it's fulfillment time. And so Matt, he's like, it's like we said, we were talking prior to the show. You guys are probably up there as the top fulfillers for indie comics.
We're a two-person operation, man. So it's like we both focus
you guys
on our strengths.
A pretty amazing job. I mean, the fulfillment turnaround time for this last one, I think was probably I think it was your fastest.
We try to stay in 3 months.
If you guys probably know better.
3 months.
I felt like
with any luck, it's actually going to get faster because there's a
well, that's good.
2-week turnaround for when the campaign ends and when you get the money. And I'm not going to give too much away about about personal finances on a recording, but I will say that last year, personally, there were some slight money troubles. No one's fault except my own. So now, however, those problems are now gone. So now those 2 weeks can be filled with getting books and getting things ready. So turnaround time and fulfillment time is going to get even better. So good.
Well, I think
because I know I've seen that from other campaigns. It's like once the campaign ends, then you have that window from where you got to wait for the funds from Kickstarter to come, so that you can actually use those funds to pay for your printing, pay for your shipping, and just pay for production.
Well, also
in general.
the thing is, I've been doing commissions and stuff and whatever. So I got to make sure I get my commissions done. I usually reach out to people. We try to break it down, so I'll send the emails to people and sort of deal with that. Oh yeah. I love. I want to say I love that. I'm so grateful for. You know what I love? I love when people commission me.
I love this
when people commission me, and I'm able to do the stuff that I'm really gonna be really into. I mean, I can draw a bunch of different stuff clearly as a commercial illustrator, but I mean, when someone says draw Gorgo, that's gonna it's gonna elevate it. Like it's like, yeah, draw Ultraman or draw like what draw something that's in that wheelhouse of what we're doing. It just makes me so happy. So I'm glad. Thank you very much. Yeah,
I love looking at this card. I mean,
it's a mini masterpiece, so damn good. Man. I try to tell anybody,
it's really is. I'm just like, I still to this day, I'm looking at like,
it's almost like
so damn good.
It's almost like if you take someone and you ask them what they really love doing, and then encourage them to do it, you get really good stuff.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's almost like I always sit there and I go, man, like, I try to think of the big guys, and when you pick somebody, like, if somebody loves Batman, then you should put that artist on Batman. Just like a writer. Like, if they're really good. I understand people can do other stuff, but you say, man, I really want to do Batman. Then you get that person. Like for me, I love drawing robots. I don't mind drawing mechs, robots, and kaijus. So the thing is that you say, well, this is the guy that should be doing
hint.
Or like doing Transformers.
I would love to
something
see
like
that.
On that line.
I would love to see that.
I'm not going to hold my horses. Ideally, I would love to be able to see Kaijus and Cowboys taken to the next level. That's the dream. I think for me and Matthew, could you imagine if somebody just said, "Hey, look, we could see this as an animated show like on Netflix or something." Oh,
hey, that's an even better idea. Let's keep talking about that.
I can't even go that far to even think. That's an even better idea.
Because just the pace of it is just like so fast. To do it, like I feel like it's just such a fast pace. Like you could put it into a movie. I mean, I don't know where this is going, where it's ending.
I'm so open to the idea of seeing. What I love is different. Because I've worked in film and I've worked in animation, so I understand that things get changed and stuff. I don't get all locked into because we have the book. If me and Matthew want to do, if fans want to really say, then we understand. We have the comics. We can do the comics. But when somebody else comes along and they can enhance upon it and say, well, yeah, I can take B1 and really see how it can look. I'm down for that. I would love to see somebody's interpretation. Yeah. That's one of the things that made me so happy with how Dope Pope did this. He did his own interpretation of B1. It wasn't so far off from my design, and he actually enhanced on certain things. I love that stuff as an artist. That's great, man. Because it's taking it to the next level. But I would love to. Trust me, it would be amazing. It'd be like I would love to see more of it. I think an animated show would probably do it much more. Like the first thing to come out, an animated show would do it more justice because it probably could be more closer to what the actual story. You could be in that line, and then live action would be. Yeah.
Well, no disrespect to Netflix, but it's like these live action adaptations of anime. Yeah. I'm not sure I agree with them. I will say the perks. The great thing about these is that they do put the original up on Netflix for everyone to watch. But it's like.
Well, what's that show? Love and Rockets. What's the love? That I see it more on that level.
Well, like a showcase of like different anime styles. I was about to say Love and Rockets. I didn't know Netflix was doing that.
Yep. Yeah, Netflix does that, and it's amazing. It's amazing. So I mean, I think that where Matthew is going, I can say right now, issue 7, I wrapped that up, and I was exploring doing different kind of techniques. Like I actually did full on marker work with that. And that was it just worked and stuff, and so where Matthew's taking the story is like I one of the feelings I felt, and I always say this even when I'm posting it, I say that it should be a journey. Like I can look at the 0 issue right here, and I can tell you that the artwork is a lot different. It's much more polished. It's getting more polished as I keep going on. I love that. Because that's what I remember with comic books. Like Mike Mignola. I remember seeing Mike Mignola's work before it looked like Hellboy. So if you go way back and see some of his Marvel stuff, even like John Byrne, you look at his early stuff and you go, oh, this is where he headed. You see there's a story there. I'm a huge fan of that kind of stuff. Instead of looking at somebody who's already starting out, like putting everything at that moment, now it's like, okay, where else can you go, buddy? you're here.
Yeah,
you're
like
at that place now.
Yeah, one of the great things about social media is that like we get to follow all these artists. So I've been on there for a long time, and I've been following a ton of artists for years, and I've seen so many artists grow.
Frank.
Like
Matt Frank, he's a fine example.
Matt Frank,
deviant art, to where he's at now. Look at that stuff there. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. And then right now, like the most recent one that comes to mind is the Thomas Arts. I don't know if you follow him.
Yeah, I know Thomas.
Doing every Godzilla series. It's this big banner back here behind me. I bought that from him a couple of years ago, and he just Legendary just like retweeted his poster for the new Empire that he did, and I'm like, there you go. I'm like, but you look at from where they started to where they are now, and like, it really is a journey. They just because it's just you're just fine tuning your skills.
Too many of these artists
again with each piece.
Artists online, and they get on there, and I think what happens is that they're trying to compare themselves to people that have already been in the game for years. They're not looking at those years. Like I had people who would look at my stuff and whatever, so I'm enjoying it, and I'd be like, well, yeah, but I've been in this for 30 years, and they'd be like, huh? And I'm like, yeah, I've been drawing for like 30 years. And I mean consistently drawing.
Yeah.
So of course it has a look that's the way it does. If I have some of my old artwork and I shudder. That's why I share some of it sometimes. I shudder at it. I look at it and I go, ooh. But then I also say it's important because I want to be able to showcase that there was a journey.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I'm sure Matt can say the same thing about his writing.
Yeah.
Like, how was your writing before, Matt? Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's important. People need to hear that and see that it just doesn't come out. And you're always perfecting. You're always learning. You're always seeing new stuff. And you go, oh, okay, all right, and then you just grow. That's where you should be working for. Don't beat yourself up because you're trying to make your work look like somebody who's already been in the game for years. Go into it, have fun. Put your stuff out. You got to get your stuff out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's.
Post your
stuff
out.
It's the world we live in. It's like there are some great things and there are some not so great things about it. Like the great thing is that everyone can see your stuff. I can sit in my bedroom and I can show my stuff around the world. And like we have people from like Europe. And like we have like people from the Philippines who are like, hey, this looks absolutely amazing. I want to do that. And that's amazing. Yeah. On the downside, though, it's like I like to say, like the great thing about the world we live in is that anyone can make a comic book. The bad thing is that anyone can make a comic book. Which means you have to compete with, with everyone. Right. Yeah. You're constantly measuring yourself against everyone. Not everyone who's out there who's making stuff is doing it for the right reasons. You have people that are taking that want to take advantage of you. You just got to be careful. And it's like, we're I actually saw this thing on YouTube. It was this psychiatrist. He's talking about the problems with the modern world, and he said something that really stuck with me. It was the world has changed, but expectations have not. And it's like that's something that stuck with me. It's like they're going to change. Like they are catching up, and we are going to have a world in 10 to 20 years where we've adjusted and adapted, but it's like, now we're sort of in a weird limbo space, which is both amazing and terrifying at the same time. So, I like it.
Yeah. Yes. I think for me the guiding light is the fact that, I'm not trying to live in the whole remembrance of past the past heroes that we've loved. Yeah. Like again, Stan Lee's gone. Yeah. Jack Kirby's gone. Herb Trimpe, person who I really admired and stuff, and I'm glad I had those moments to talk to him to tell him how much he influenced me. But he's gone. The thing that keeps me really going, that really keeps me into this, is the fact that I'm hoping that as that generation of people who were inspired by these legends, that not in the sense that will I ever become a legend, because I don't know, But all I can say is that maybe the work that I'm doing can somehow influence a young person. Ideally, that's my dream. That somebody young out there can see what I'm doing and say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and just do it. Whatever, have fun. Don't try to treat this as somehow you're gonna be able to sell your idea in Hollywood. It doesn't work like that. Trust me. If Hollywood options your thing, the most likely that it's going to get made into a film is like the people who do when that happens. It's amazing. It's an incredible thing. But don't treat it like oh man, I'm going to be making thousands of dollars and whatever. The people that are making on these crowdfunding campaigns exorbitant amount of money, trust me, they already had a built-in audience. In most cases, they've already had a very strong audience or whatever. That's
well. At one point, they were where you are now. So there's always someone who's going to be better off than you, and there's always going to be someone who's worse off than you. I'll go online and I'll see someone who was able to raise $15,000 on Kickstarter in 2 hours, and it's that looks good. I'm so jealous of them, but at the same time, I'll go to my job that I have to work that I work to pay for the comics, and I'll talk to people about what I'm doing, and they'll be like, "Wow, that's so cool! I'm so jealous. I wish I could do that." And I'm like, "Oh, that's that's what it's like from the other end." Yep. So it's it's two different things at the same time. And I'm sure those people that are doing really well for themselves also have these same feelings as well. It's this person is doing better than me, and it's and then you have other people looking up to them and being teach me how to do what you do, and it's this is it's an interesting place to be in, and it's very weird. So
well, I think it's also that the thing is that what if most of those people who are having these massive campaigns and whatever, I always wonder, is there that organic growth where people are going to stick with it? Remember how we grew up and we that was the whole point of collecting comic books. You got lashed onto it, became an addictive kind of thing, and you were I want to get these people. That's the thing where I go, can Kaijus and Cowboy get to that level where someone who goes, hey man, I want more of that, and they're gonna. That's what I look for. I'm like, man, that'd be amazing. Somebody who wants to stick around and hang around for the ride, and that's why you see I always use the terminology of saddling up. I want you to come along. I want you along for the ride, man.
I mean, it's just we're hooked on this. I just love the characters. The different hunter bots that you introduced in the second issue and that we saw in the third issue. I'm
just curious. Did it throw you? Because I think for the longest time people kept thinking, oh, it's a sci-fi western. But then all of a sudden you got these different robots.
So the thing that I kind of got the feel from it, so almost like in Westworld where they had the samurai world. I was oh, so we got the samurai robot, and then that's the World War II-ish kind of feel, or World War One with the one robot, and the other one's just this crazy sci-fi I don't know, what is it, a transformer? Is it a bird? Is it a bird lady? Where did you come up with those? I mean, clearly you had some different inspiration. Where did those designs come from?
Again, Matthew came up. Well, Matthew had names. He just the way I say that Matthew sort of handles it is he'll just come up with a name. He'll just be well, this cat is sci-fi, and that's her name. And so from there, I sort of built off of that. He'll be samurai guy or whatever. And so I build off of that. Yeah. And so when I started thinking about the designs and the characters, I'll be honest with you, I was heavily influenced by I know I'm going to say his name wrong. Gonage's Get a Robo G or Get a Robo. So there you go. Okay. Again, I get flashes in my mind of certain things, and I go and I have the figures and stuff, and I saw that and I said, huh. Even though Matthew was well, this character's like this and whatever, the GI guy, whatever, and I said, okay, GI robot. So then I was yeah, but that's almost Get a Robo G. Maybe there's a little flavor in there, such and such. Yeah. And so I start building from there. I just thought the idea of again, the woman who can transform her body. I just said it'd be nice to have a transformer, a bot that can transform.
Yeah, no, that's what I was like. I was like, this was definitely Transformer inspired. I got like one of the shots when she was flying. I was like, oh, I get like a star screen kind of feel from this.
I think that it's like this kind of world that we've built. It's almost like, again, I'm not saying it's like Jack Kirby, but Jack Kirby, when I would look at Jack Kirby stuff, he would just go out there. It was an experience. Like, he was just hey, whatever, you got characters flying. And I was like, maybe we can do this. I've been cracking open some of my books, looking at stuff, and I said, Frank, just free yourself, just have fun. Even like those old 80s animations you would watch, there'd be the craziest stuff that would come out. And you go, wow, why is that in there? Why, but you didn't care. As a kid, you just was like, that's pretty cool. Silverhawks. Oh my God, this guy can fly in space. They could even talk in space. You didn't have to there was no rationale to it. No, but it was just cool.
Exactly.
And so that's what was sort of...
Well, I will say this.
Designs, I'm hitting on that level.
Yeah.
So,
I will say this. There is kind of a reason for why all of these hunter bots have different aesthetics. And there is a reason there is a reason in the story, and you do find out, but you find out much later in the story because we're getting into spoilers. However, I will say.
All right.
Okay, so I did have a question that, it's not really a question. I'm gonna just throw out a theory there now that you said that, and Frankie mentioned that he had another bot with no name design. I'm thinking maybe the other design we might see is another hunter bot, maybe. And my other theory is because I the Team KS1 prequel.
Yes.
One of my theories is that maybe some of the personalities from those people, like their mindsets got like...
that's a really interesting idea.
Plant no seeds.
And I wonder it might show up really like in the KS1 those series. Future issues. But like I said, spoilers.
Yeah. Well, see, isn't that fun? But think about that. Isn't that fun how... You're not getting everything microwavable. Remember how, like, again, I'm old enough to remember comic books when they were like soap operas. So I remember that addiction of running to my, I went to a few comic book shops when I grew up in Boston. So it was like going to various ones being like, oh my God, I get there. Because they didn't give you everything. They would give you enough.
Yeah.
And then there would be a cliffhanger. And then you're waiting for like the monthly, the next books to come out or whatever. And so it's like, I think that's something that we're missing. I know that people want to sort of compare the American comic books to manga and stuff like that, which I've always found funny because I was I went to anime clubs. I was part of an anime club back in the 80s. I love manga. One of the reasons why I look at manga, I think, is that manga never changed their formula, even in the 90s. They just maintained the same thing. And it's like, they said, we're not changing anything. We're going to keep newsprint, cheap, a little bit of artwork, that kind of thing. And they just maintained that. America decided to change. They decided to get really radical. They got rid of the base who was buying, which was children. Kids were the ones who were buying, but they pushed away from that market. And then... we did it to ourselves. Yeah. So my feeling is that as Americans, I think that as the American form of comic book storytelling, I think that we should at least try to maybe go back to the basics, the foundations of what started it. And that means just trying to put out something that's going to, try to get people in, force people almost to get that addiction going where it's like, you've noticed that even people, like some of the streaming shows, they started going back to that format because when they found out that when they gave people a massive lump of something, binge watched it, people, once they binge watched it, they didn't even care anymore about it. And they were like, whoa, we're losing people. Yeah. Whoa, what's going on here? Well, guess what? Because you got away from the formula of doing the cliffhanger or making people get that addictive, like that high, like they're just like, oh my God, I got to see what's going to happen next week, so I got to keep watching the show. But, you got to get back to that. There has to be a reason why people are going to buy the comics or want the comic books. If you're giving these massive lumps of stuff to people, then
P.T. Barnum may have
been come back again once they got it.
Yeah, and like you said, like like the kids is like part of what comics used to be targeted at. Like, if kids aren't being targeted, like that audience is just going to keep getting older and older. So like it's going to be hard to get like new young readers. So like this kids could get into Kaijus and Cowboys. Like we that's part of like what we always say is like it's got to be for everybody. Like people were like poo-pooing the new Empire. But they're like, oh,
kids,
like,
kids will love it. I saw a bunch of kids watching it.
We were kids.
I was sitting next. We were sitting next to a family. Me and my wife were sitting next to a family. It was so funny too because it made me so happy to see these young kids sitting there watching Godzilla, the Godzilla times Kong, and I'm like, and they were like knowing these characters. They were like hooting and all. I'm like, that's what you want. You want that. They're the next generation. We want the continuation. Yeah. You don't want to be like, a bunch of, people our age sitting up there and stuff like that, and we're just getting older and older and older,
Yeah.
I mean, with the explosion...
They're the future creators.
With the explosion of young adult graphic novels and, like, kids' comics, it's like kids want comic books. Like, kids want to love this. And it's like, okay, so it's up to the creators, and it's up to... people like you, me, and Frankie. Oh, hey, he's back. It's up to us to fill that niche, and it's like, So, there was something else I was going to say.
Yes,
and I don't think you have to dump. I don't think.
Oh no,
I don't think you have to dumb it down either. Like it always kills me when people go, "Well, are you doing a children's book?" And I'm like, when I was reading Conan the Barbarian, they weren't dumbing that down. I was reading X-Men by Chris Claremont. I was a kid reading that, man.
As long as you don't show graphic nudity or like horrendous violence, you're fine.
Well, yeah. Those are the hard. I mean, clearly you can't give a kid Faust. Remember Faust? Yeah, you can't give them that kind of stuff. But I mean, kids back then, we were reading all kind of different stuff. But again, it was a different options. For me, I think another thing is I guess I'm on this weird crusade where I don't want to see the American form of comic book storytelling and comic book artistry be shot down. I always cringe when I hear people they go, well, but maybe you should consider doing manga. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, but where do you think manga came from? Manga came from them looking at Walt Disney and looking at the old school stuff. They looked at American comics. And that's how manga started gaining some started growing and they started developing. The thing is that I'm not saying you could have both. You don't have to knock one down and be like, well, all you American artists, you guys need to start drawing some anime and that kind of stuff. No. We have an art style. We have an art form. We have a certain style of storytelling. That's very important.
Yeah, things inspire other, like each complements each other. Each inspires the other. I mean, they like they said, with the MonsterVerse, Pacific Rim, if those weren't so successful, we might not have got Shin Godzilla or Godzilla -1 because they said that's the success of those movies are what dragged them back into it. Because from what I heard, they were done with the Godzilla. They had no intention of coming back. But then when they saw the success of those two things, they're like, all right.
What about this? Have you guys been noticing the uptick on American Kaiju films? Did you see the preview for that new creepy one, man? I don't know. The spider.
The Bambi,
there's one called Sting. It's called Sting, about a giant spider.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I've seen that yet.
Yeah, look on YouTube. It's a new horror movie called Sting coming out, and what is it? It's a giant spider, dude, and it's creepy. And I mean, this is the stuff that America does. America had its own kaijus. I was talking to somebody that said, look. What about the Attack of the 50-Foot Woman? I heard that they're planning on doing a remake of that.
They're coming.
The Blob. The Blob was another. The Blob was another American kaiju. The thing about American kaiju,
Beast in 20,000 Fathoms. And that predates Godzilla.
The American Kaiju films, what made them so amazing,
King Kong,
they usually were terrifying because they were real creatures like the giant tarantula, the giant mantis. They're doing a remake of them. I mean, these are American Kaiju films that were terrifying. Food of the Gods. I mean, again, it's like I'm so happy to start seeing American Kaijus coming back because we do make some terrifying. I would love to see It Came From Beneath the Sea. Remember that? That one? That horror film?
Yeah, that's one we were gonna do a show on that, but we haven't got around to that one yet. But great one. That would be.
I want to see more people.
I mean, that we just had America had this great era of giant monster creature features.
Yeah, those 50s and early 60s sci-fi movies.
They were fantastic.
And you know they get ragged on all the time, and it's just like, no, those are really good movies. You guys have
really
have
terrifying because what American Kaijus were usually real creatures. That's what made it more terrifying. So it's like that. I even now I'm getting shudders thinking about the giant tarantula. I remember just because they used a real tarantula.
I gotta look up that. I gotta look that up.
Oh, Sting. Yeah, dude, it's like a spider because I just see the scene like in the commercial. The little girl. She gets a spider and she's like, "Oh, look!" And it was.
Oh yeah. Okay, now I remember what you thought. Yeah.
Well, let me see if I can do it. I'm trying it out. Yeah. You saw it. Yeah. It goes. There you go. It goes. I can't even. I'm laughing because and it's so creepy. And suddenly there's a scene where the girl goes, "Hey, is a spider supposed to get that big?" And you see it inside of like an aquarium, and it gets big, and then finally it gets out. And then it's roughly like the size of it's bigger. It's like an apartment building, but it's big, and it's just eating people. It's like you hear people, the narrator's like spiders like the.
Oh, I might have actually seen the poster for this now that you're talking about it. Now that, all right, I know. I love the resurgence of the creature feature. Like even that. As nuts as it is, that Bambi.
Oh, that looks amazing! It looks amazing.
I was like, Bambi just manhandled the car.
Cloverfield. A lot of people don't even talk about Cloverfield. Cloverfield.
Yeah, Cloverfield. That was one of the first ones to really.
People thought it was Godzilla, and it's Cloverfield.
I was convinced. I was like. To my friends at the time, I'm like, it's a Godzilla movie. It's a secret Godzilla movie.
But I think that we're in this is right now, we're in an era, a time for people who are into this genre. Our fandom is like, there's a point where, the only thing I hope that our fandom is just open. That's all. Like, I want to see more people in our fandom who are open to other different things. I mean, yes, I'm not saying you don't have to not like Godzilla. Of course, I love Godzilla, but also there's other things too. I mean, I can turn my neck this way too. I don't have to keep my head turned this way. You can turn your neck that way, and you might be able to see some really cool other stuff. Because that's all part of it. These are all part of the whole kaiju thing. The Kaiju experience. Yeah. Any kind of giant robot stuff. I would love to see more giant robot stuff that America does.
Let the indies cook.
It's a fine example. Great film.
Yeah. Yeah. That's part of what we're trying to do. Is like we're trying to get everybody to look in every direction as part of what our goal was when we started this up. I mean we're not historians or professionals of the kaiju genre, but we're just super fanboys. We just want to share our love for it and just be like, hey, there's all this cool stuff. Maybe you should check it
helps
out,
the other. Anytime Godzilla -1 does well, we do well. You know what I mean? What it does is it keeps. I never forget the time I was working at an agency when Pacific Rim came out, and I'll never forget it. It was I got in a conversation with I believe it was the creative director, and I could tell she was all exuberant, and she finally was like, yeah, she said the word kaiju. And she was all happy about it. And I looked at her eyes and sparkling because she learned about kaijus through Pacific Rim. And she was like, that was really cool, these kaiju. Yeah. And she knew nothing about it before. I think that many times in the family that we have to understand that many folks, and this is across the board, same thing like in the stuff that's going on with Marvel and all these films and stuff, is that for us who have been watching this for years and years, there's many people who don't know anything about it. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay. The thing is that we should be wanting to open this up for other new people to come in so that they can have their own experiences with it, you know. And fine, okay,
absolutely.
fine. You don't know all the intricate parts of this thing or whatever. That's absolutely okay as long as you are enjoying it. Maybe you may enjoy a certain actor that's playing a certain part in it. That's absolutely fine. I'm okay with that. I want these genre, these things to keep going. That's my main agenda. I want them just to keep going and staying in the loop of the psyche of our culture.
The idea of if you're
die.
The idea of if you don't know this, you're not a real fan is absolute horse dookie. And it's like
exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's so stupid. Well, that's the same thing as
it's a good because I was gonna say because the idea of having your own riff on the kaiju genre is like a big reason why Kaijus and Cowboys exists. Because it's like we keep getting asked why would you combine a western and a kaiju movie kaiju story because they're two different genres and it's two different things. It's like, well, no, if you think about it, because this is the talking point. Like a kaiju movie is a monster coming out from nature and obliterating humanity and saying, if you keep on this path that you are on, this is what's going to happen to you, so change your ways or else. And then you have the western, which is people going out into nature and making it their own. It's like we are going to start a new life, we're going to create something for us, and God help anyone who's in our way. And it's like you have these two differing philosophies over what that is, and it's like, who's right? How do you reconcile those things? And it's like that it's a great place for conflict, which is like the core of any good story. And so that's where we came from this. And it's like I would love to see people like doing different variations of a kaiju story. Like there was a comic book a couple years ago called like Kaiju Score. It was a heist story. Yeah, but it was set in a world where kaiju exist.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And it's like, that's amazing.
Yes, I haven't got to read that one yet. I picked it up.
Well, my feeling on I read Kaiju Score. Well, the first one on it. Did I get the other ones? I might have. But you know what they remind me of?
Yeah, there's two volumes.
They reminded me a lot that I can tell that they might have been influenced by, what was that Toho movie? The kaiju, the one, the jellyfish from space. No, the amoeba. Not the amoeba, not space amoeba. What was the one?
The gorilla?
That's right. I think their storyline reminded me a lot of that, and I mean, and that's okay. I mean, if they got influenced by that, but that's what it was. It was like, because remember the whole storyline of like there was a heist going on during when Dagora comes down and stuff, and yeah. So it's like I was like, all right, cool. So it definitely had a lot of part of it. One of the things that I knew that I wanted to do with Kaiju and Cowboys is I definitely wanted to have more of an emphasis on the relationship, like to see, like literally seeing Kaijus engaging. I love drawing these different things, so I want to make sure that people get to see them functioning, and also see playing around, because I do have I have my little twisted little sense of humor. Like you see the emotions of the Kaijus and stuff like that, like the little eye movements and stuff like that. So it's almost like you get a sense of what happened with Godzilla in Godzilla Times Kong, where we see a lot of that emotion coming out, like the weird movements or whatever. That they're not just these creatures just put in here and they're just lumbering around and whatever. That they actually also have feelings and emotions and there may possibly their own language and that kind of thing. That always fascinated me. Even with Gamera, a character like Gamera, where you almost feel for this character and you're going, oh my god, this endless battle that he's going through, for what? Is it for us? Yeah. Is it for the
planet? I mean, kaiju, like a kaiju ecosystem was another thing. I think that sounds about right. That's what we wanted to make with Kaijus and Cowboys, like an ecosystem of monsters, and like how they work and how they interact with the planet, and how they interact with foreign invaders, that sort of thing. That was definitely something we were thinking about, right? Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, definitely, because they're the native species of
Yeah,
that
well, I
planet, and
mean,
we're the ones that are
again,
terraforming it.
spoilers.
So it's like,
yeah,
you find
you
out a
know,
lot more in
we're the
issues
ones that are
7 and
disrupting
8
their
and
chain.
10. Like, it goes into the background of as to, like, why the kaiju are the way they are and why the robots are the way they are. So, like, keep reading. You'll like it. Like, issues 1 through
ah,
6.
Yeah,
whew. I can,
Yeah.
that's one of the questions I actually was gonna ask you. Is like like B1 has the Steed. Like he's so far the only robot that we've seen that has a relationship with a kaiju, and how did that happen? Like I know like in issue 0 he used the
Yeah.
nanite mind control thing on those like
yeah.
wolf like dinos to like fight the big guy. Like does he have
Oh,
a
you are
natural
asking all the
relationship
right
with the Steed? Like,
questions.
or is it under my
Oh,
control?
you're gonna have to
Like,
read. Yeah, you're at the right questions, but you're gonna have to read.
oh man, I wrote down some good ones for today.
Great questions. Great questions. They're wonderful questions. But see, I love that though, because the thing about it is, that the fact that you're even asking, that means that you're into it. You're investing. I think that was the key thing. That's one thing I learned in advertising, because I was sitting in meetings and stuff, and they'd be like, and I mean, these are people, smart people. I mean, I don't think people understand the power of advertising until you're behind the scenes. When you're sitting in a room, seeing people figuring out why someone's going to buy something, it is mind blowing. Like it's like because they literally, that's what they're doing. They're just sitting there going, okay, so they'll be like, well, this brand and how the feeling of like, how's this going to affect the person, and if they're going to really be engaged into it. That's what I think of, like with Kaiju Cowboys when I'm drawing. I'm like, how are they going to engage? How can I can get somebody to look at this and get into it, that it's not going to be something where it's just like, So I work hard on the visuals where I want you to really, really be like, feeling the emotions of it, understanding that he's doing stuff. I don't want to skimp on anything. So that's why I do the action I do, the little extra stuff in there. That's one of the reasons why I love John Byrne's work. John Byrne is one of the people who I felt he was definitely an artist, just like another one, George Perez too, but John Byrne, where he didn't skimp on artwork. He would let you see how something's going to happen. If a character is going to be running or using their skills, oh no. Oh, you can see me? Okay.
No,
yeah, my screen just went blank.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry
I'm
about
just
that.
listening.
Like he wouldn't skimp on something. So I'm in that same frame of mind of not wanting to skimp on stuff and make sure that you can see everything that's happening, like the characters, the movement.
Oh boy,
That's the thing. And
that's what we say.
Well, I mean, there's the tired-old saying, "Comics are a visual medium," but yeah, no, like
a lot going on.
I do think a problem that I think a lot of writers have
is
I'm not going to say imposter syndrome, but I will say that I have read comics where it seems that the writer is putting words in there just to make themselves feel like they're doing something. Because it's like, because like I'll read a book and it's like they'll have like 5 captions over an action scene where they're talking about like a person's inner monologue, and it's like, you don't need that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've seen that sometimes where I'm like, this is just a lot of words on a page.
Oh, what about?
Yeah. And I'm like, where's the picture? I'm like, it's behind all these bubbles.
These big expositions? Yeah. Like, remember back in the day when they would there'd be a thought balloon, like they'll sit there, but there'll be more action. Like we'll say like Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man goes out and he'll just come in and beat these guys up, save somebody and whatever. The next thing you know, you see him in a building, and then he'll have his stop balloon, like, yeah, man, I didn't pay my rent, that kind of thing, and then he move on. But you got to see all this great action. Like, you see all this great action and whatever. It wasn't like him sitting hours on a rooftop and he's having this exposition where he's just talking, and he's like, who's he talking to? He's just talking about the things he's gonna do, and it's like, dude, the whole point of comics, just like film, just like anything out there, is that it's supposed to be entertainment. Yeah. I think that's the key thing I think a lot of people are forgetting, is that this is entertainment. And so people should feel like they're being entertained. Now, if you're dealing with stories with characters that are like superheroes or it's very it's supposed to be action-oriented, you need to put adequate amount of action to balance off whatever there's going to be those slow moments. Like if a character's sitting there talking, or they're whatever, just having these moments. But it shouldn't just be those moments should be stretching on for pages and pages, and then the big action scene is like maybe 1 or 2 pages, and then you don't see. You go, oh wow, okay, he shot his hand, he blasted the character, and that's it. You know, yeah. I'm not from that.
Yeah,
that screen.
I have seen some comics like where I'm like, how did that, like, where did this, like, I forgot, there was one that I read, I don't remember what it was, and I was just so like lost that I just had to like keep flipping back. I'm like, I feel like I missed something here. I was like, what happened? Yeah. Like, I was like, how did this guy end up like that? Like, yeah, sometimes the visual's just not there, and you're like, well, you just give us this little bit, but then, like, how did we get to this
I think
bit?
One of the main things is that I wanted B-Win to be about action. B-Win reminds me in my head of, and this goes back even like anime, I loved anime, is that I loved how like characters like Cyborg 009, you know, I don't know if you guys ever saw that anime, Cyborg 009 or 8-Man, any of those, those are those classics. But again, they were always about action, where these characters are moving super fast, they're running at top speed, they're rebounding around. You know, when I thought of B-Win, I was like, I want B-Win to be like, he's not. I'm not a big fan of omnipotent, powerful beings. I think that a lot of characters, even a lot of Western characters, suddenly people are trying to make them like Super Saiyans. You know, like they're giving a lot of characters like this insane amount of power. Where I'm from the frame of mind where it's about the skill and the will, that kind of thing. The underdog fighting against something that's much more bigger than themselves, so you can root for them. What I don't know how you can root for a character if the character can vaporize a planet. You know, again, that it takes. You know, to me, I love the idea of, like, again, the classic Spider-Man. Remember the scene, you guys probably read, scene when the girders fall on him. What is that book from? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And he's just my God. I think John Romita Sr. drew that scene where he's just pushing the girders and he's straining and you know, and you can sit there and go, if somebody tried to do that today, they wouldn't draw that scene out. You won't get that sense of him straining and fighting to get out of it. Yeah. They would try to just be like, well, okay, cut. Where it'd be like him.
Well, I mean, there's the conflict between compression and decompression.
No. Yeah, boom.
In terms of like script writing, and I mean, this is where comic book writers do need to come into their own, because it's not like you can tell, like you don't need just words. You need to show the artist the pace of the action as well, because like for the longest time, especially in like the early 2000s, there was the trend of like decompression, which is basically where like you take a single moment and draw it out over multiple pages. And the reason why they were doing that, it was sort of disingenuous. They were creating issues for trades. So like, you know, when you need to draw a story out like over 6 issues for a trade paperback, you know, what do? Like, you know, like you're gonna stretch some stuff out, and like that actually drew a lot of criticism. So these days, I think we're starting to swing back in the opposite direction as well.
Yeah.
Like where, like, you just, you know, fast paced, you know, cram as much as you can in there. You know, give the reader their money's worth. And like, you know, it's all a balance. Like, you know, it's a cop-out answer, I know, but like, you know, so you got to know when to draw something out, and you got to know when enough is enough. So you know that.
Well, I'll tell you, when I worked in animation, I had a director, and this is my early years when I was in my 20s, and a director once came to me and he said, Frank, he said, because my work was real tight. It was just like when I was drawing it, I was too hyper focused, and he said, Frank, you got to loosen your work up. So he would do little tests with me where he would draw these squiggly lines and say, okay, draw a figure, make something out of it. That's literally what he would do. He'd be like, all right, Frank, just to get my mind more looser, to not get constrained, so you're just locked into how a figure is going to look. But instead, in animation, you want fluidity. Excuse me. And so I remember he said, Frank, another thing I want to talk to you about, because I was at the point I was doing a lot of I was doing concept art, but I also was doing a lot of storyboards and stuff. So he said, Frank, he said, He said, I want you to start thinking of, he said, first off, ask yourself this question. Imagine if you draw something. Now be honest. He said, you have to completely be honest with yourself. Would you watch it? If you sat in a movie theater, would you watch what you drew? He said, it's storyboard, so if it was all being shot and stuff, would you watch it? And that always stuck with me. And then another thing, he said, think of the camera as something that isn't locked down, that the camera's always traveling around, that you're getting all these different angles and stuff like that. But that was always something so profound to me, because it's true. I think a lot of people need to take a step back, and if you are doing comic books, say, if I was sitting in a movie theater and I'm watching what I just drew, would I watch it? So that I'm literally saying, being honest, like, would it be a splash page? And that's all you saw was a splash page on the screen. Would you be happy with just seeing that? Would you be happy to see two people sitting in a diner just talking for the length of 5 pages? and it's like, that's that honesty where you have to be honest with yourself. And that's what he brought to me. And it's always stuck to me to this day. So when I'm drawing Kaijus and Cowboys, I'm seeing a full-on animated, it's an animated show. I'm drawing in the context of, it's very visual. There's action. There's stuff going on. I want you to be entertained. I want you to get that dopamine hit. I want the colors to be bold and powerful and stuff like that, so they hit you and go, oh my god, and oh okay, whatever. And then all of a sudden it gets to the end and you're like, god dang it, when's those guys coming out next time? I want that.
That's really it.
That.
Yeah.
That's what I experienced as a kid, going to my local comic book shop. I didn't have the luxury of it was monthly. I think it was at that point it was monthly comics back in the day. So I had to wait a month.
P.T. Barnum may have been a god-awful human being and treated his people like crap, but he did get one thing right. He said, always leave them wanting more, which, good advice.
Yeah, that's true. It's great advice. You want people to get hooked in, So then they're just like, man, I want to see more of this. But for that to happen, then that creative team has to be able to set a standard for themselves. And I'm not saying you have to be hardcore on yourself, because again, it doesn't help if you're over pressured. I always get worried when people get so they put so much pressure on themselves to the point where they can't even function. Because again, you should be having fun. There should be something where it's fun. Your mind's creative. You're coming up with stuff and whatever. There should be this level where you're just relaxed. When I think of Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, yeah, I think they in the back of their minds, I think they understood that, yes, this is a business. This is a business. We got to get this stuff done. But then there's another part where I want to believe, and this is maybe I'm being too, I don't know, fantasy there, but I want to believe that these guys actually enjoyed what they were doing, that they were in the moment. I can see Stan hovering over there. All right, Jack, get it going. And Jack's just, he's drawing his things or whatever, and they're in it, man. They're in it. And that's the thing that when I think of that whole thing, I'm like, that's what me and Matt, like, I think of us and I'm like, yeah, we're in it. We're in this moment where you're just creating something that didn't exist a few minutes ago. Now it's tangible. Now it's in your hand. It's tangible. You can that's what I believe in. And I know it may sound antiquated by now, but I'm old school. I'm from the 1900s. I would say
the
1900s. So
I would say to anyone listening to this who might be interested in doing their own thing, go for it. I mean, if Frankie and I can do this, you most certainly can too. And
go for it.
It's okay to be nervous. It's okay to fail. It's okay to learn. It's okay to practice. But you just got to keep going. And the worst thing, the worst thing that can happen is someone will laugh at you and say this is terrible.
Keep going.
That's it. It's not that bad. So.
Yeah, don't get locked into the likes. That stuff is just meaning. It doesn't mean anything. Just enjoy it for what it is. Put it out there. I know a lot of people that I still have ash cans. I still have ash can comics from the 90s that I got at local cons and stuff. And these were incredible. I love them because they were just so raw. Literally people handwriting the word balloons. You can't even read half of the stuff. But it was something about it that I just loved it because it was just raw. It was their truth. And I think that that's the thing that people need to sort of connect to, is the fact that this is your truth. Don't sit there and try to compare yourself to what's already.
Well, it's also worth mentioning that when people put stuff up online, like they're not putting the thousands of attempts and the thousands of mistakes that they made. They're putting their best stuff up there. So, like, entertainment and like online and like social media stuff, like that, like that's one of the downsides to it. It's like you don't see the behind the scenes stuff. So, like, I mean, that it's a pet peeve of mine. So,
Yeah, the long hours and stuff like that. Well, I mean, I'll toot my own horn when I say that's why I put my videos up. I started thinking about that, and I said,
creation process.
I sat there and I said, you know what? I can't sit here. I don't want to be one of those preachers where you're just preaching and you're not actually, the actions aren't matching the words. And so I said, you know what? Shut up, Frank, and just do it. And I've had many of my mentors. They were like, "Shut up, kid, just do it." I had a teacher like that. I remember once, when I first got into advertising, and I remember I was freaking out on a big gig. I think it was for Delta Airlines, and I was freaking out, man. This is the days of computers were just coming in, but we still would have to do the 7 p.m. FedEx drop off, and I freaked out. I honestly, my brain went numb. I didn't know what to do, and he looked at me and he said, "Go in, splash some water on your face. Get your act together and get it done." My teacher, Charlie Banks, I called him my other dad, and he was like, "Just get it done, kid." And anytime I ever feel like the deadline of pressure's coming in, his voice just comes to my head: "Get it done." Just if you need to go walk, he'd always say, "Just, you need to go walk. You need to handle your stuff. Get yourself balanced, and then just get it done." He said, "Just get it done. Don't sit there. The time you're wasting sitting. Yeah, he said the time you're wasting in overthinking it, you're wasting time. Just get it done. Just get it done." And that's what I did. And over the years, I just started. And then he said, "You'll just start learning. You start making yourself more efficient." He said, "Learn techniques. You start learning faster techniques, ways to get the job quicker, better, and you still don't lose quality." Those are the things that are in my head, in my mind, where I'm like, how can we do this faster, better, but also the quality isn't hurt? And you will. You eventually will find a way that works for you. It's always hard for me to try to tell people how I do it, because I'm like, well, I don't know if you can work the way that I work. So you have to find a way that works for you, that benefits you, and then you'll just do. But the only way you'll do that is by you gotta do it. You got to do whatever you do, whether you're an inker, whether you're a penciler, whether you're a writer, you just got to do it. And then you just got to keep going on and keep doing it. And it has to become either it's going to be a passion or it's not. And that's okay. Maybe you're not meant for comics. Maybe you're meant for something else. Maybe you'll make a better editor than a writer. I mean, I think sometimes people have to face that. I think that there was a point where we went to that phase in schools where everyone got the star. I grew up where everyone didn't get the star. If I lost in a race, then I lost in a race, and I just had to be like, all right, I wasn't, hey, I'm not good for that. Like in football, my brother was great in sports and stuff like he dominated. I was jealous of him, but I just didn't have that passion that he had for sports. So it wasn't good, but I was great for other stuff. I was great for other things and stuff, and so that's what my teachers were like, all right, you're good for that. Okay, focus on that. So people got to get to the point where they got to understand themselves and say, okay, if I'm not good with this.
And as previously stated, sometime near the 40-minute mark of this interview, there will be people that you will look up to and you will be jealous of, but at the same time, there are people who will be jealous of you. So, and it's the weirdest thing, but it's true.
Well, yeah. I mean, that goes back to the old saying that people want to see you rise just to see you fall. Like you rise them up and then you just want to knock them down. I mean, that's why I've always been. I learned a long time ago when I was starting out and stuff. It's okay to be
absolutely humble.
Not. Humble doesn't mean weak. You know, humble just means that you never get to a point where you get so high where you start, if you make a mistake, then all of a sudden it's the end of the world. I think sometimes when you start getting to that place where you're thinking too much higher and whatever, then when you make a mistake or something happens, then it's like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. If I make a mistake, I don't think it's the end of the world. I just go, well, I'll have a better day tomorrow. That's what I mean.
Exactly.
So I'm very humble. I'm very like, whatever. Yeah.
Nobody's perfect.
I look at each one of these books, and I'm happy with each one of these books. I don't beat myself open. I'm not trying to create perfection. I don't know what perfection is. All I know is that if people enjoy these books and they truly enjoy it, that's the key thing for me. I want people to truly enjoy Kaijus and Cowboys. I don't want them just to be like, if you're trying to play Kate or trying to play Kate Matthew, please don't do that, because then I would honestly, I would just be like, then why am I doing this? I don't have to do this. I could just be doing commissions. I could be drawing, I guess, Godzilla or whatever, and but the thing is that if we're doing this, then I want you to genuinely be like, hey, I dig this because these guys are doing it. I like what they're going with it, whatever. That keeps me going. That motivates me to keep making it happen. But yeah, I don't need people to be.
So real quick, before we veered into the motivational portion of the recording, you had a question about the hunter's relationship with his steed. Yeah, so I can actually answer that 20 minutes later. There is a reason why the hunter gets along with the steed, and there is a reason why he is like the only one who has that interaction. And I don't want to give away too much, but I will say that the hunter is one of the oldest robots on the planet. So there are things about the hunter that sort of he has stayed while the world around him has changed. If that makes any sense, and part of that. Yeah, and part of that involves, involves being a lot less antagonistic towards the kaiju. That's all I'm going to say. So, like, there are things about the hunter that have allowed him to be a lot more understanding and a lot more willing to work with other kaiju. So it's not a relationship that is forced, but it's unique. It's a unique thing that doesn't really exist anywhere else on this planet. So that's all I'm gonna say. Keep reading. So.
There you go.
Yes. And you are absolutely going to love. Like, you are going to be absolutely blown away by issue 6. Like, that is, like, it's the halfway of this point of the series. It's the culmination of a lot of stuff that we've been talking about over the last couple of issues, and it all comes to a head there. And like, I have seen the artwork for it, and like I told I don't give Frankie a whole lot of instructions when it comes to art, but I said I basically said, make this as epic as you humanly can, and dear Lord, did Frankie deliver on this. It's like, oh my goodness. So
yeah.
I really can't wait for this.
Well, it's forcing me to start doing different things. Like there's a lot of stuff where I'm getting. You can tell that I'm really getting stoked by it, because I'm starting to experiment. With different kind of techniques. Again, like I said, I'm doing some marker paintings and stuff like that. I'm having a blast, man. I think that's one of the key things about it. You gotta have fun, and fun may mean you gotta go into there and you gotta mix things up a little bit or whatever. You can't be afraid. I believe in the Maverick law.
Kind of like a cowboy.
You gotta be a maverick. Yeah, like a cowboy.
Yeah. So we're on the campaign for
Yes.
issue 4 now. Obviously, you guys are in production all the way up
Yes.
to issue 8 as of right now. What's the release schedule for the next couple issues going to look like? What's what time frame?
August is going to be issue 5, and we've been sort of sticking with a timetable of 2 issues per year, just to work. So next year would be 6 and 7, and then the same thing 8, 9 until we eventually get to 12, and who knows how big that's going to be? Only Matthew knows.
So
how many pages? How many pages that's going to be?
I want to spoil so much, but I don't want. But I'm not going to. No, we're not. I'm not going to do that. But yeah,
hold it in.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're going to be doing.
No spoilers.
We're going to usually follow the April one campaign in April, one campaign in August, until. Yeah.
Yeah, it works. I think we found a rhythm. We found the sort of rhythm with that, and it just works. I mean.
Oh
again,
my goodness!
We
yes.
tried a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And we just. Yes, we have. But the thing about it is that you learn. You learn and you adapt and stuff like that, and you move. So I think that
and it's a good schedule that allows us to deliver the best work we can in a way that is both it keeps it's a good timetable for people to read the books, but it's also a good timetable for us to produce the best work we can and to stay sane, because burnout is very real, and we don't want we don't want to turn out crap work because we're exhausted or we run out of money.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to that whole thing, like production. Like again, when I worked on film stuff, that's why production studios, where people have time and stuff like that, because you have to factor in those other things too, like downtime. Like people just need a rest. You need time. What if somebody gets sick? If you're cramming in a bunch of stuff, you got to factor in all this stuff. There should be a point where you can sort of recharge your energy, your batteries, so that then you can go for the next wave when you come back to it and stuff like that. Those things are very important. And I would tell anyone out there, if you're going to try to do a project, say like you want to do a Kickstarter or just any kind of crowdfunding, any place or whatever, crowdfunding, I would say you give yourself 6 months to a year. Especially if you're talking about, doing a book comic. I would say ideally, if you could, try to have at least 75 to 85% of that comic done. And, at least that, if you can, because then it just helps. Because, I know that the argument is that they say, well, crowdfunding is, people are trying to back it because it's about the production. I think that we've reached this stage now with crowdfunding where, for certain projects, maybe, possibly, say like for films or whatever like that. But I think for comic books, just because a lot of people have been burned, and stuff like that, I think that a lot of us have to change our tactics. But we have to make sure that the product is possibly as close as possible to complete it, so that at least you can get it out to get it out to the people, the backers, at a reasonable time. And a reasonable time, ideally, would be sometime in that same year, if you can. Ideally, you want to get it to them as quick as possible, because then you can keep it. Then you can hopefully.
Because I don't know, when it comes to my ideas, like my philosophy for crowdfunding is that the book should already be done. The crowdfunding is just a way to make the money you put into it back. Mm-hmm. That's my opinion on how it should be done. And so incidentally, if you ever hear me announce a crowdfunding campaign, please know it's because the artwork is already done most of the time. So
and for me, the biggest enjoyment for me is just getting the book in the hands of people to read. That really is my major excitement, man. I'm just like, you look at this thing and you go, man, this is in the hands of folks. They're reading it. It's terrifying, but also it's exciting. there's the other side of the dopamine where it's kind of like you're sitting there going, it's out there. Whatever comes at me, and I'm hey, I've been around the business for a little bit. I'm fine with that. So I mean, I love that. That's where I get my high. I get my high from just folks getting it, and
it is a fantastic feeling.
Like that. Hopefully, again, as we're getting more issues out, we can have more conversations. Like I like to see more people be able to come and say, okay, well, what about this character and such and blah blah blah, that kind of thing. That's the dream. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've reread it pretty much every campaign. Every time a new one comes around, I kind of reread it all over again and just refresh. And now it's to the point I've read issue 0. I don't know how many times. Issue 1 a few times.
And we've
now.
also, I think we had a short little conversation before we started where I was expressing how like the books that people get on the campaign are for the campaign, so that the books that we have now on Indie Planet as well as Global Comics, they're totally separate.
It's the same plot. Like you're not going to get a different story, so but that, there's special stuff in the Kickstarter books. So
yeah, we make sure to tweak it up, even like the covers. Like add a cover thing on it and stuff like that for the more indie, like stuff that's going to be on Indie Planet and Global Comics. They have to be different. So so that extra time that we have, even on our downtime, we're still working. We're working on those things to make sure that those books are different, and then go through it all over again.
Loving the background, by the way. Seeing the I'm sorry.
Yeah, is there anything else that you guys just want to? I mean, obviously
the loving the background, seeing our comics in the background of the video it's fantastic.
I know, doesn't that look great? Oh man, oh, I got my little shrine back here with some of the figures and things like that. But it looks great, guys. I'm like,
Thank you.
Isn't it mind blowing? We've put out like 5 books. That's crazy. In 4 years.
Between the issue 0 and the Team KS1.
That's 5
and
books.
Now this, I mean,
that's crazy, man.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just it's just mind blowing to me. I mean, sometimes I have to pinch myself, man. I guess you look at because I have my copies here and I have my copies because I use them more as reference. So I make sure, like I'm always scanning to make sure I'm not duplicating a scene or something. Like I'm going, okay, let me just make sure this paced out really good and whatever, So, but it just makes us. It makes me feel very, very, very happy to see that you guys are enjoying it and stuff like that, and other people out there as well. The people that comment on our posts and things like that. It's such a joy.
Yeah, it's definitely one of our favorite series that we've been following along since the beginning, and we love seeing it grow. And I mean, I don't know if you guys have anything else that you wanted to cover for the campaign before we wrap this up. Is there anything else you want to get out there about it?
The thing is that we have this lovely mystery pack. The mystery pack is something that's pretty new. It's going to contain various. Let me see if I can get some items up. It's going to be containing items such as possibly this metal card. This is full-on metal.
Ooh.
Or
I'm not saying you should use it as a weapon, but it's close.
Or I may have a mosaic. The mosaic's going to be a very rare card. And then we're also offering some of these. These are like actually coasters. Kaijus coasters.
Nice. Yeah, gotta keep it.
So we always, in each campaign, we always try to come up with something. The mystery pack is something that's going to be hopefully fun. I know that there's a lot of mystery boxes out there, and people sometimes they'll roll the dice. I've rolled the dice before on mystery boxes. I've gotten some cool stuff, so I thought that it would be a great idea. Some of these might contain a sketch card, an actual sketch card with my artwork in it. Some of them might contain a card, one of the metal cards, or the mosaic card. Some very special patches that I worked on some projects that unfortunately they didn't happen, but they're very rare. So regardless of what, you're going to get something that's very, very rare from my collection. So this is the newest item in my campaign.
So we're getting some of Frankie.
Yes, I do have a treasure trove of things. Oh, I gotta get rid of some of this stuff. Jeez.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
We really had a great time talking to you. It's always a fun time. I'm glad that we got this one going. Losing that last show was just, it was honestly heartbreaking. I mean, it was, I was just, I was dealing with I was having issues with my foot pain, and I was just having a bunch of I was just on a downhill slope. No. And when I heard that show failed, I almost lost it.
You guys have been a beacon. You guys have been a beacon. And again, I just want to thank you. And I said it before online too. I mean, I truly do mean it. You guys have come out here, and you're definitely. I love the fact that you dare to talk to. You do the whole range, not just talk to, but the whole range of what this fandom is about. And that's the most important thing. Talking about every little aspect of it. From, the small to the large. From Godzilla to Kaijus and Cowboys. That to me is amazing. Yeah. That is what it's about. You remind me, you honestly remind me a lot of what Wizard was when it first started. Remember Wizard magazine? And then there was fan and stuff like that, where they were totally for people to be like, hey, look guys, this is a fandom. We're going to talk about you. We're going to show the people who are, who you don't even know about, as well as the people who are known. It's fair, and I think that's one of the things. I'm just grateful. I'm just really honored and grateful that you guys are a beacon. You're shining a light on us.
You guys mentioned reread our books before every campaign. I still listen to the first interview you guys did of our books. It's a wonderful feeling, and I really appreciate that. So
yeah. Mesa Squad, you guys, man. Oh, I can't wait. What's the next thing for you guys? You guys gonna have a show on streaming? Amazon.
One day
Amazon
maybe.
Prime.
It's a dream. We're just trying to do what we can. We both, we wish we can only wish for this to be our life or jobs, but unfortunately, it's not. We have to live in reality, and maybe one day we'll get there. But it's baby steps
it's just a hobby.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a reason for us to stay
well, hey,
in the fandom.
Do you know how many people I talk to who say, "Oh, I want to be a writer, but don't do anything about it," and then complain about how they're they're not making a living off their writing? Exactly. It's just do it, man. Just do it.
Yeah.
Hey, have you guys had Matt Frank? I gotta check.
No, we haven't. Not yet. I mean,
maybe I'll whisper in his ear. Say, Matt, take it on Mesa Squad.
To me, that would be like meeting a hero.
All right.
I grew up in high school. I started reading that. His comics really pulled me into the Godzilla comics. I mean, I was always a Godzilla fan, but Rulers of Earth.
I can't make any promises. I can't make any promises, but I'm definitely. I'll say something to him about it. He needs. I mean, because he represents.
Thank you.
I mean, he represents a major part of this fandom.
Yeah,
so all right. I'll shoot him a text.
That's very humble.
Problem,
it's scary there for you to say that.
I'll see what I can do. I definitely will send him. I'll actually send it tonight. I'll send it to him. Say, hey, Matt, man, you need to get on that. I just spoke to the Mesa Squad guys. Come on, man. Represent.
Thank you. We really
not a problem.
Appreciate
not a problem.
Yeah,
Because you guys are doing a great thing. And like I say, I call you guys the beacon. You're one of the beacons in this industry. And we need those. When those lights shine on us, man, it's fantastic. It just lets other people know. So
the art
what I always say, keep the creativity strong.
I gotta head out. My phone is about to die.
Right on.
Yeah, no.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
All right. And on that note, that's a great way to end it off. Thank you so much again, and we're wishing you luck on the campaign.
We're at 921 right now.
I'm looking with this. Maybe you'll be at 50%.
I'm looking at it right now. 921.
Should be soon.
Before day 2, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
9/21. All right, let's see.
All right, it's
9/21. Day 2, and we got till May 15th. So everybody, head over to the campaign. Links in the description. And thank you guys for watching, and thanks for being our guest.
Take care. Have a good night, guys. Have a good night, Matt.